You may have seen some of the recent headlines in the news. It seems like everyone is talking about the rising cost of college and the concerns about taking on student debt. I know that it can be really scary and overwhelming to see all of these stories on social media, and it's led to a groundswell of conversation among students, parents, students, parents, counselors, and employers. A growing number of students and families are wondering about the value of college. Is it worth the cost? And are there well-paying careers that don't require a college degree? So today I want to begin by responding to some of these questions and concerns because they are important, and students who are in the process of making academic and career decisions should weigh the pros and cons for themselves. While it's true that there are many media stories questioning the value of college, there are also plenty of stories talking about why college is worthwhile. For example, a 2022 study conducted by New American found that 75% of Americans feel that a college degree is worthwhile, and 64% say that a college degree can ensure financial security. Most importantly, according to the US Census, those who have a college degree earn a significantly higher annual salary as compared to those who have a high school diploma. In fact, those who hold a bachelor's degree typically earn double the salary of someone with a high school diploma. Now, that said, not all careers require a bachelor's degree. If you're interested in pursuing a well-paying career in a vocational or trade occupation, then consider attending a community college to earn a certificate or associate degree in your chosen field. It's a very affordable way to begin your career. But it gets even better than that, because when you look at the average lifetime earnings based on the education level achieved, you can see that someone with a bachelor's degree earns, on average, about $1 million more than someone who has a high school diploma or GED. Of course, as I mentioned, not all careers require a bachelor's degree, and some of those careers do pay pretty well. For those of you who are interested in pursuing a career in a vocational or skilled trade occupation, you can see here that the training you receive at a community college will not only help launch your career, it will also result in a greater annual and lifetime earning. And of course, transferring from a community college to a university to earn your bachelor's degree can get you the same level of lifetime earnings without having to pay a lot for your first 2 years of college. The most important thing that I want all of you to come away with today is this. You do have an affordable path to college. You don't have to take on the burden of student debt. And what college looks like for you might look different for someone else. Your path is yours, and you can choose the one that is the best fit for you, both in terms of your career plans as well as your budget. So with that all said, let's start by looking at what it typically costs to attend a four-year university. When thinking about college costs, it's important to understand each college's cost of attendance. How can you know which colleges are affordable for you if you don't know yet what attending will cost? So it's important to know this information for each college you're interested in. The easiest way to determine the estimated cost of attendance of a college is to look for that information on the college's website. Most, if not all, colleges have this information readily available. Here's a chart that ballparks the percent of cost that goes towards tuition and fees, room and board, books and supplies, and transportation and other expenses. You might be surprised to see that in many cases, room and board costs more than tuition and fees. Also be aware that some colleges list the cost of health insurance as part of the cost of attendance, but most families are already paying for your health insurance. And if that's the case, know that you would not need to pay for health insurance again through the college. Lots of students talk about wanting a full ride scholarship. What's important to understand is that a full ride scholarship is very rare and are typically only awarded to students with significant financial need, exceptional academic merit, etc. When colleges do offer a full ride scholarship, they're often awarding the cost of tuition, but not the cost of room and board and other expenses. According to the College Board, the average cost of attending an in-state public university in the United States is nearly $28,000 per year. Multiply that by 4, and you'll see that the average cost for a bachelor's degree is over $100,000 if you attend a public in-state university. The average cost of attending an out-of-state public university is about $45,000 per year, or multiplied by 4, $180,000 for a 4-year degree. The average cost of attending a private university in the United States is over $57,000 per year. Multiplied by 4, that means the average cost for a bachelor's degree at a private university will cost about $230,000. And let's not forget that some students take more than 4 years to complete their degree, which can bring the cost up even more. Of course, these numbers are about the cost of attendance and not the dollar amounts that students actually pay, because of course, many students are awarded federal or state grant aid, and many students receive scholarships as well. So actual out-of-pocket costs may be considerably less. Private colleges have large endowments, and they do sometimes offer substantial scholarships, perhaps 18 to 25,000 per year for students with strong grades and a high SAT or ACT score. But even with financial aid and scholarships, many students still end up taking out student loans, and their parents often have to take out loans as well. And all of those loans have to be paid back. But need-based grants and scholarships do not have to be paid back. They are free money. So how does a person qualify for need-based grants and scholarships? Let's find out. Most students know that the way to apply for federal student aid is through the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. For those of you who have filed the FAFSA in previous years or who've read up on how the FAFSA works, it's important to know that the FAFSA has changed. Some of the changes were fairly minor and were already implemented in the last couple of years. But the FAFSA that opened on December 31st is very different from the previous FAFSA. So for the next few slides, it's important to pay really close attention because I'll be discussing the changes that have the most impact on students and families. It's important to know that some of the changes are positive, especially for students with significant financial need. However, middle-income students may find that the changes reduce their opportunity to obtain federal grant aid. Let's first start with how financial need is determined, and then we'll get into some of the changes that you'll see on the new FAFSA. To determine your financial need, the college's financial aid representative uses a simple equation. With the old FAFSA, they subtracted your expected family contribution, or EFC, from the total cost of attendance, or COA. The result was your financial need. With the new FAFSA that launched this year, the process is similar, but there are some differences. First, the new FAFSA no longer uses the term expected family contribution. Students and families found this terminology to be confusing. So now instead of EFC, the new FAFSA uses the term Student Aid Index, or SAI. The SAI is an eligibility index number that a college financial aid officer uses to determine how much federal student aid the student may receive if the student attends the school. This number results from the information that the student and their family provides in their FAFSA form. The SAI functions in a similar way to the EFC. When calculating financial need, the financial aid officer subtracts the SAI from the cost of attendance, that's COA, and also subtracts any other financial assistance, or OFA, to arrive at the student's financial need. Examples of OFA could be external scholarships or grants, for example, or other financial assistance that the financial aid officer knows about at the time they're determining financial need. So the new formula is cost of attendance, COA, minus student aid index, SAI, minus other financial need, OFA, equals financial need. One thing that's different between the old EFC and the new SAI is that the SAI number may actually be a negative number. If your SAI is between negative 1,500 and 0, you'll qualify to receive the maximum Pell Grant of $7,395. If your SAI number is higher than 0, you may still qualify for a Pell Grant based on your family size, adjusted gross income, and poverty guidelines, but the amount you receive may be less than the maximum Pell Grant amount. Right. All students who are planning to attend college should complete and submit the FAFSA, even if you don't think you're going to be eligible for grant aid. You may discover that you do qualify, and the only way to know for sure is to submit the FAFSA. This is especially true today now that the new FAFSA has launched. If you're interested in taking out student loans or would like to be considered for work-study opportunities, you'll also need to submit the FAFSA. Many scholarships do require that students submit the FAFSA as part of their application requirements as well. This is particularly true for university scholarships. And universities often require that students submit the FAFSA, and without it, again, they may not consider you for certain merit aid and scholarship opportunities. Once you do submit the FAFSA, you'll receive a student aid report, or SAR, that provides you with your SAI number. Your financial aid officer at the colleges you're applying for will use that number to calculate your eligibility for financial aid using the formula we just talked about. So now let's go through some of the other important changes to the FAFSA. Whoops, skip that. Okay. There are many changes to the FAFSA, but today I'm going to focus on the changes that are most important for students and parents to know. First, in recent years, the FAFSA opened on October 1st, but as many of you are probably aware, the new FAFSA opened on December 31st. The FAFSA developers delayed the launch of the new FAFSA to ensure that the FAFSA form did not have any technical problems. While it was hoped that the FAFSA would launch on October 1st this year, unfortunately, the Department of Education recently announced it would be delayed again with an expected launch date in December. Hopefully after this year, the FAFSA will return to an October launch date. And of course, just as an aside, we all know how many technical problems there were with the new FAFSA this year. So even though they delayed the launch, there were still a lot of problems. Another big change is that the FAFSA form was simplified, and there are now just 36 questions instead of 108. This will make it a much simpler process. The new FAFSA also requires automatic transfer of IRS data to the FAFSA. This was available on the old FAFSA for several years, but now it's actually required. This change reduces the likelihood that students will be asked to complete verification documents later on. For students whose parents are divorced, separated, or never married and do not live together, only one parent needs to complete the FAFSA. However, now the parent who completes it must be the parent who provides the most financial support to the student, rather than the parent that the student lives with the most. If this parent has remarried, the step-parent's income, assets, and dependents must also be reported on the FAFSA. For dependent students with just one parent or independent students who are single parents, there is some good news. The new FAFSA may actually make you be able to be eligible for more need-based aid. This is a potentially positive change. But remember, even though students in these situations may have increased eligibility, it doesn't mean that you will qualify for federal grants. It just means that you may be eligible depending on your household income and assets. One big change that will affect families with multiple students in college at the same time is that the new FAFSA no longer allows you to benefit from this. In other words, if you have more than one child in college at the same time, the FAFSA no longer considers that in your federal financial aid determination. For low-income families, this won't have significant impact. However, for middle-income and upper-income families, it will definitely have impact. There are other changes related to reportable income and reportable assets, so you're going to want to be able to check that online to get more details if you'd like to know more. All right, so once you've submitted the FAFSA, what happens next? Colleges will receive your data shortly after you submit the FAFSA form, but you'll need to wait for each of the colleges to present you with their financial aid offer. This year, unfortunately, there were significant delays in those financial aid offers coming out due to the challenges with the rollout of the new FAFSA, but hopefully going forward, the process will be smoother. Note that many colleges won't work on your financial aid file until after they have sent you an offer of admission, which can be frustrating. Private and out-of-state colleges do sometimes offer a scholarship at the time an admission offer is made, but even then they may not yet have determined whether or not you will receive any state or federal grant aid. Once you do receive your full financial aid offers, you may be offered a combination of federal and/or state grants, student loans, work study, scholarships, etc. Or it might include only one or two of those. Many students are offered loans only. It all depends on your student aid index number, as well as how much funding is available. So you're going to want to follow up to ensure you understand your full financial aid and scholarship package before accepting an offer of admission. And remember, if you're offered loans as part of your financial aid package, those loans are not free money. When you accept a student loan, you are actually accepting debt that you'll need to repay later on. So before you sign on to accepting student loans, focus instead on what you can do to fill your financial aid gap with scholarships, not loans. So let's take a closer look at scholarships, which are clearly a much better option. There are three primary sources of scholarships. Scholarships offered directly by each college or university. These are scholarships you can apply to only if you're applying to attend that school. Some colleges will automatically consider you for scholarships once you submit your regular application to the school, while others have a separate scholarship application process. You'll need to research this for each college you're applying to and find out what the scholarship application deadlines are. Don't assume that the university will notify you about scholarships. It's up to you to do the legwork and make sure you apply on time. And be aware that the scholarship application deadline is typically prior to admission decisions being sent out. So don't be the student who gets accepted to a dream school and only then decides to apply for university scholarships, because by the time you're accepted, the scholarship deadline just might have passed. All right, the next great source of scholarships are the local ones in your own community. The easiest way to find out about them is to ask your high school counselor or career center staff. Most high schools keep track of local scholarships, and in fact, in many cases, the high school actually has a single application that you can use for all of the local scholarships listed with your high school. Local scholarships are awesome because far fewer students will apply for them since they're only offered to students in your community. And finally, there are many, many scholarships offered by businesses and organizations. These are the kinds of scholarships you'll find on the Scholarship All platform. You can apply to as many of these kinds of scholarships as you like. If you're diligent and persistent, you might find you're able to earn scholarships that really make a difference in your out-of-pocket costs. Most students search for scholarships online using Google or by visiting any number of websites that discuss scholarships. The process is typically overwhelming and unfortunately time-consuming, which explains why students often give up on searching for scholarships. It can be really frustrating. And of course, since seniors are super busy applying for college as well as working hard in school and preparing for graduation, it can be difficult to summon up the energy to also search for scholarships, let alone to apply for them. I'd like to take just a moment to talk about Scholarship Owl, a Scholarship Owl platform that's trusted by over 10 million students. We've got artificial intelligence, machine learning, and other proprietary technologies built in to ensure that your scholarship matches are relevant to you and to ensure that you have the tools needed to enable you to focus on the scholarships you have the best chance of winning. Our platform enables you to view hundreds of thousands of dollars in scholarships all in one place year-round, enabling you to avoid using Google to search for opportunities. Instead, you can just log into Scholarship Owl and see scholarships right in our dashboard. This significantly streamlines the search process. In addition, you won't have to fill out an application form each time you apply for a scholarship. Instead, your Scholarship Owl registration information will automatically pre-fill application forms for scholarships in our database. This again saves time and enables you to focus on the most critical aspect of applying for scholarships, which would be creating and submitting whatever's required to accompany your application. That might be an essay or video or social post or perhaps an art piece. We also have lots of easy apply scholarships with no requirements at all that take literally a moment to apply for. For those of you who are not yet Scholarship Owl members, there is a free trial you can access from our website, so you can try it out and see what you think. The most important thing to remember when applying for scholarships is that you should apply for all three types of scholarships: scholarships offered by the colleges you're applying to, local scholarships in your own community, and third-party scholarships like the ones you can find in our platform or online. And you also want to create a plan for applying for scholarships, so you won't be tempted to delay applying, or worse, give up on applying. Your plan needs to be manageable, attainable, and measurable, and you should write your plan down so you'll stick with it. For example, you can decide you're going to apply to X number of scholarships per week or per month. The takeaway here is that you need to be proactive. You can only earn scholarships if you actually take the time to apply for them. It's also important to note that if you're selected for a scholarship, you didn't win money, you earned it through your scholarship application efforts. Applying for scholarships does take time, persistence, and ingenuity. Students who apply to more scholarships significantly increase their chances of earning scholarships as compared to students who apply to only a few, and certainly as compared to students who don't apply for any. Also, once you get into the swing of applying for scholarships, there are things you can do to streamline the process. For example, let's say you applied for a scholarship that required you to submit a 500-word essay about your academic and career goals. When you're looking for other scholarships, you can check to see which ones require an essay with a similar topic, and then apply to each of them one by one, using your original essay as a starting point. Perhaps one of the scholarships wants a 750-word essay on that topic. Take your original essay, add details and content so you can expand it. Perhaps another scholarship wants a 250-word essay on the same topic. Take that same 500-word version and edit and trim it down to get to 250 words. If you follow this process, you'll be able to quickly and easily apply to a good handful of scholarships. And don't forget that while there are a lot of essay scholarships, there are also scholarships that don't require an essay. Some examples are scholarships that ask you to create a video about a particular topic, or scholarships that ask you to create and share a social media post related to the theme of the scholarship. There are also creative scholarships for students interested in showcasing their visual or performing arts abilities. Some scholarships are really easy. They might ask you to complete a survey, or they might not have any requirements at all. One important thing to know about these easy scholarships: they may attract thousands of applicants, and they are decided by random drawing, since applicants were not asked to submit something they created like an essay or a video. So your odds of winning easy scholarships are not as great. If there are 10,000 applicants, you have a 1 in 10,000 chance of winning. But if you focus on scholarships that require more of your time and effort, your odds of winning will be higher because most students will bypass doing the work required. So instead of competing against thousands of applicants, you might instead be competing against a couple hundred. When deciding which scholarships to apply for, I recommend that students apply to a mix of scholarships, aiming for applying for 3 scholarships per week. Apply for some easy scholarships since they take only a bit of time and effort, but focus on applying for scholarships that ask more of you, like an essay, video, or creative project. because these will be low competition scholarships that don't attract nearly as many applicants. For the next few slides, I'm going to focus on strategies for earning essay scholarships, since essay scholarships are often preferred by scholarship providers, and because when you apply for essay scholarships, you have some control over your ability to win, since these scholarships are not decided by random drawing. So let's start by thinking about how scholarship providers approach reading the essays they receive. If you were a scholarship provider and 200 students had submitted applications and essays to apply for your scholarship, how would you approach the task? First of all, chances are you wouldn't exactly be excited at the prospect of sifting through 200 applications and reading all of those essays. In fact, you might feel truly overwhelmed. That said, you might also feel positive that you would be helping to award funds to help a student pay for college, and you would also feel hopeful that some of the essays you read might showcase students who would truly benefit from your support. You might also feel hopeful at the prospect that some of those essays might even be inspiring and perhaps entertaining. So when you're ready to apply for a scholarship that requires an essay, this is what you want to think about. If you were an application reader, would your essay be one that would stand out and impress, or would it be similar to many others? Your goal is to stand out and to demonstrate that you deserve the scholarship, not just because you want it or need it, but because you have done the work to earn it. Oops. What does doing the work look like? It means reviewing the essay prompt to be sure you understand it. Make sure you respond to the entire prompt, not just part of it. For example, if it asks you to talk about your academic and career goals, then in your essay, you need to discuss your college plans and intended major, and you also need to discuss what you plan to do after you graduate, what type of job you plan to obtain, and what industry you'd like to work within. Discuss internships that you hope to have while in college to prepare you for that career. Be thorough, but avoid padding your essay with extra words and phrases. Doing the work also means that you shouldn't sub out your essay to ChatGPT. Scholarship reviewers are hyper aware that a lot of students are now using generative AI to help them write their essays, or even to have AI write their entire essay. I personally would recommend that you limit your use of AI if you do use it at all. If you do, be smart. Use ChatGPT to perhaps help you create an initial outline or to brainstorm ideas, but don't have AI write your entire essay. Your essay needs to be personal to you, reflecting who you are and what you care about. And only you can infuse your essay with everything that makes you, you. Your opening paragraph is really important because it's the first thing that the application reviewer will read. Make sure that paragraph sets up the rest of your essay properly, and make sure your opening is compelling. Make sure you demonstrate your passion and emotional connectedness to the essay topic. Let the scholarship provider get to know you through your essay. If the essay prompt will require you to do some research, make sure you actually do that research and be sure to cite that research properly. Make sure you don't plagiarize. Be mindful of any word count requirements and stay within the word count. Proofread your essay and correct any spelling, grammar, and punctuation errors. If this is an area where you struggle, or if English is not your native language, ask someone who has a good grasp of English grammar to review and proof your essay. Students sometimes wonder if scholarship providers really care about the overall quality of the essay. They wonder if spelling and grammar matters and wonder if scholarship providers are really all that picky. My answer is yes, all of this matters. I've had conversations with scholarship providers that literally say that one of the things they're looking for is college readiness. While it might not seem fair, since scholarship essays are not college application essays, some providers really do want to award the funds to a student who's prepared not only to begin college, but to succeed in college. They feel that students who reflect a certain level of college readiness are more deserving of the scholarship, and therefore they're going to be more likely to select a student who has done the work to earn the scholarship. All of this might sound like a lot, like it will take a lot of time and effort, but there are ways to streamline this process so that it's much easier and faster than you might think. Start by thinking about essays you've already written and leverage them to apply for scholarships. For example, for those of you who have recently applied to colleges or are in the process of applying to college right now, chances are you've already got college application essays that will be a great starting point for scholarship essays. These kinds of essays are typically going to be about your academic and career goals, challenges you've overcome, your greatest achievements, your community service and leadership, and more. Look for all of those essays on your computer and look for scholarships that have a similar essay topic. After you've exhausted your college application essays, look through other essays you've written for school. For example, have you written about climate change? I've seen many scholarships that have an essay prompt related to climate change or the environment. So keep an eye out for essay prompts that are similar to other essays you've written. When you're ready to apply for a scholarship that has a prompt similar to one of your essays, be sure to review your existing essay and tailor it to the new essay question. You might have to tweak the opening and conclusion and might need to adjust the word count. If your original essay is directed toward a particular college or organization, be sure to change those details so that it works for the provider offering the scholarship. Before you know it, you'll have a handful of essays that are nearly ready to go, and all you need to do is make minor tweaks each time you apply for an essay scholarship. In fact, one of our members earned $6,000 in scholarships through our platform in just 3 months, and he applied primarily for essay scholarships. He told me that he really only used maybe 5 or 6 essays total, making minor adjustments each time he would use them to apply for an essay scholarship. I do think it's important that everyone also understand that in addition to applying for financial aid and scholarships, there are some other ways that you can reduce your out-of-pocket costs. So let's discuss some of those options right now. You can specifically seek out universities that offer lower cost tuition or even free tuition. Some examples. Public in-state universities are typically going to charge a lower tuition rate for state residents. So when you apply to colleges, be sure that you apply to some public universities in your own state, just in case you aren't able to obtain enough financial aid or scholarships for an out-of-state or private institution. There are also a good number of private colleges and universities that offer reduced tuition or even free tuition. Be sure to explore those colleges and consider applying to some of them as well. You can see some of the colleges that offer free tuition that you might want to consider right here on this slide. Note that some of these colleges focus on admitting students from particular regions, and in some cases, you'll also need to work part-time on campus in exchange for receiving free tuition. Of course, all students may also want to consider joining the armed forces. If you pledge to serve in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, or National Guard, you're going to be eligible for education benefits through the GI Bill. And finally, some colleges will offer automatic merit scholarships based on your high school GPA or SAT or ACT score. Those that do this will actually tell you how much of a scholarship you'll get right on their website, making it easy to see whether or not you will qualify for one of their automatic scholarships. You can also apply to public universities in nearby states that participate in a tuition reciprocity program. A tuition reciprocity program is one in which public universities offer a reduction in their out-of-state tuition costs to residents of nearby states. This helps to enable students to have greater equity, access, and opportunity to receive higher education outside of their home state. Not all universities participate, and there are some parameters that need to be followed. For example, sometimes students must meet certain minimum GPA or test score requirements to be offered the tuition reduction. Or in some instances, colleges might offer a tuition reduction only for certain majors. The Midwestern Higher Education Compact, or MHEC, offers the Midwest Student Exchange Program. This program serves public universities located in Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, North Dakota, and Wisconsin. If you live in one of those states, you may be able to qualify for a reduced tuition rate at one of the public universities in one of the other states in the list. If you live in the Western Interstate Commission for Higher Education region, or WISH, then your state participates in the Western Undergraduate Exchange Program, also called WUI. WISH states and territories are Alaska, Arizona, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, New Mexico, North Dakota, Oregon, South Dakota, Utah, Washington, Wyoming, and the U.S. Pacific Territories and freely associated states. If you live in one of these states or territories, you may be able to qualify for reduced tuition rate at one of the public universities and one of the other WISH states. Other exchange programs include the Southern Regional Education Board Academic Common Market, serving Alabama, Arkansas, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, and West Virginia. Note, though, that Florida, North Carolina, and Texas only participate for students that are taking graduate programs, not undergraduate. And also, there is the New England Board of Higher Education's tuition break program serving Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Vermont. Note that there are some states that don't participate in a regional compact for undergrads. Those states are Iowa, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Texas. Note, though, that some of these states may offer other opportunities to qualify for a reduction in out-of-state tuition costs. So if you're interested in attending a school in one of these states, you should contact the school directly to ask about your options. I know that was a lot of information, right? Of course, one of the easiest ways to reduce college costs is to live at home and commute to college. If you have one or more universities near your home, I would highly recommend you apply to them, even if they aren't your first choice schools. That way, you'll have a local option in the event you're unable to get the financial aid and scholarships you're hoping for from the colleges that are further away. You can also attend community college near your home and transfer to university as a junior. Many students do this to get their general education out of the way while saving money for when they transfer. And many states have recently implemented programs that enable state residents to attend their local community college for free for 1 or 2 years. If you aren't sure what the options are in your state, research it online to find out. And don't forget that community colleges also offer other scholarships you can apply for, making these schools an even more cost-effective option. One idea that students often don't think about is attending a community college that's either near your home or a distance away and living in an off-campus apartment. While this is more expensive than living at home, you would still save significantly on tuition. This is a great in-between option that enables you to have the full college experience of living away from home while also still reducing your costs. Another alternative is enrolling in online classes. This would also enable you to live with your family to conserve costs. You might also have a conversation with your high school counselor to ask if he or she has any insight about programs that can reduce your out-of-pocket cost. And as I mentioned before, your counselor can be a great resource for finding out about local scholarships offered to students in your own community. Another note, your counselor may be able to help you obtain fee waivers to save on the SAT or ACT, as well as help you obtain fee waivers for college applications. This might seem obvious, but I would be remiss if I didn't actually say it. You can make money by getting a job and earning it. You can work part-time during the school year and full-time during your winter and summer breaks. You can, of course, find work quickly in entry-level restaurant or retail positions, so that's a great place to start. But you can also try to find a job that's related to your career goals. It may be a bit challenging to do that, but it's definitely worth it. If you're a college student and qualify for work study, you can also look for a work study job on campus. These jobs often can relate to your academic and career goals. For example, you can apply for a student assistant position in the office of your major department, or you can apply to be a teacher's assistant for a professor. With part-time income, you'll be able to reduce your reliance on student loans and might be able to avoid taking out any loans at all. And the work experience you gain will also look great on your resume and will help you attain a better job later on. Or what if instead of a job with regular hours, you take on a side hustle? You could deliver groceries or deliver food from restaurants, or you could be a driver for a ride-sharing app. If you're a creative person, you could design graphics for t-shirts and sell them online, or you can create and sell your wares on Etsy. There are so many options for earning money for college. Over the summer, I spotted an ad on my Facebook feed that targeted students and parents. The ad really stood out amongst all of the ads I typically see because it literally encouraged students to fund their financial aid gap with student loans. I thought the ad was awful and exactly the wrong message that should be sent. Student loans might be a quick and easy way to fund your gap in the short term, but they are absolutely the worst decision for the long term. This is because most students take 20 years to pay off their student loans. And what happens when students are struggling under the burden of that student debt? They discover they can't afford other things that adults want and need as they advance in their careers because those things are now less attainable. In fact, recent studies show that 20% of millennials and 68% of Gen Z students currently live with family, taking far longer to leave home as compared to previous generations, even after obtaining a college degree. And 40% of them expect to remain living with family for at least 2 more years. The reasons they cited were overwhelmingly related to economic factors, including student loan debt. In addition to delaying living on their own, students also delay other important milestones. They delay buying a new car or getting a better car. They delay getting married. They delay buying a home. They delay starting a family. They delay saving for their children's education, and they delay saving for their own retirement. So to pay for college, focus on applying for jobs and scholarships, not loans. Many students are asked, what's your dream school? When asked this question, most students will name well-known, highly ranked, and highly selective schools like Yale, Harvard, Stanford, or NYU. Most of the time, these schools are private institutions that cater to students who have a very high SAT or ACT score with over a 4.0 GPA. These schools can also be very expensive. Sometimes a student will name one of their state's public universities, often their state's flagship school that everyone from their state is hoping to get into, like UCLA or UC Berkeley in California, or University of Texas, Austin, or University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. These schools are often nearly as selective as an Ivy because they get so many students who apply. But large public universities often have impacted classes, making it more challenging to graduate within 4 years. I think it's time to reframe what a dream school is. It's not an elite institution that puts you in debt. A dream school is one that you can afford. A dream school is one that meets your academic and career goals while also being a good financial fit for you and your family. A dream school has a top-notch advising team that helps to ensure you can graduate within 4 years, not a school so impacted that you're constantly put on the waiting list for classes you need. A dream school offers outstanding career-related internship and employment opportunities, both on campus and in the surrounding area. A dream school creates numerous opportunities for networking with your professors, as well as employers in your field, enabling you to leverage those connections when you're looking for a job as you approach graduation. A dream school prepares you for furthering your education, should you choose to do that, but it also prepares you for immediate employment in your field, because no one should graduate with a bachelor's degree and not be able to find a job related to their course of study. So if you're a student going to be applying to college for the first time or applying to transfer to university, now is the time to reframe the definition of a dream school and apply to colleges that fit this new definition. So in summary, know that college is still worthwhile today. By going to college, you'll significantly increase your income, not only when you're early in your career, but also throughout your entire career. But make sure you choose an affordable path to get you where you want to go. Be sure to understand the cost of attendance for each of the schools you're targeting. Submit the FAFSA and understand the formula for determining your need-based aid. Be aware that colleges might gap you and not offer you enough need-based or merit aid to cover your financial need. Create a plan for applying to scholarships, something you can stick with that's manageable, attainable, and measurable. And understand other strategies for reducing out-of-pocket costs and use them as a backup in case you're unable to get the financial aid and scholarships you're hoping for. Apply to colleges that offer lower cost tuition or even free tuition. Apply to colleges within your state's tuition reciprocity program. Live at home and commute to college, whether that be a university near your hometown or your local community college. Live away from home, but attend a community college to save on tuition costs, or take classes online. Talk to your school counselor about scholarship programs and fee waivers that can help you conserve costs. Get a job or a side hustle, or both, to earn money for college and to gain work experience that builds your resume for your future career. Most importantly, avoid taking out student loans. The burden of future debt just isn't worth it. Understand the new definition of a dream school. It's not a highly selective elite school. A dream school is one you can afford. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see what kinds of questions are in the chat.
Yeah,
Isaac,
well, thank you, Jennifer, for such a comprehensive presentation. For those of you in this webinar, feel free to leave any questions you have in the Q&A section, and we can answer them live right now. We're going to have maybe 10-15 minutes for Q&A, and yeah, just leave them in the chat, and I can read them out, or we can have Jennifer answer them live here. And while you guys are doing that, we did receive some questions online from students who pre-registered for this webinar. So I guess I will just start off with one of them.
sure.
A student asked, how will the FAFSA delay for the 2024-2025 application cycle affect the college applications? Should I be adjusting the schools I'm applying for to include more financially affordable schools? Should I be applying more early or more like normal round decisions? How will it affect the whole timeline?
Wow, it's a great question. So first of all, everyone should be applying to affordable options. Absolutely, regardless of the FAFSA issues, right? I mean, that's always the goal, is to have an affordable path to college. So definitely apply for schools that are affordable for you, or at least more affordable. You can also, of course, apply to some reach schools that are reach financially or academically and see what happens, to see what kinds of scholarship offers you might get. But I would say, this does not change your college application timeline. You still need to follow the same deadline process that's available through each college. You can check their deadlines on their website. If you're interested in applying early action, for example, you want to apply by the early action deadline. And then, of course, there's regular decision deadlines that are a little later. So, still follow all of that process, but be prepared for the fact that it will take longer for you to receive your financial aid offers this year, just like it did for students last year. Hopefully it won't take as long, but be prepared that it will take longer than normal. And so what should you do while you're waiting? Well, absolutely, you should be working part-time during the school year, full-time during breaks. You should be applying for scholarships and prioritizing that, applying for scholarships year-round. A lot of students think, well, I'll apply to colleges first and then focus on scholarships after the holidays, right? Don't do that. You apply for colleges and apply for scholarships at the same time. Apply for scholarships year round, all summer long during the summer and all throughout the school year. At any given time, we have over $500,000 in scholarships on the Scholarship.AI platform. Every single month, we have that much. So there's lots of scholarships. It's not dependent on a certain time of year.
Okay, thank you for such a thorough answer. It appears we have a question in the Q&A section from Steven. Steven says, I'm a student from Africa and I have admission into a private university in the United States. Am I eligible to apply for the FAFSA?
If you are not a US citizen, then you are not eligible to apply for the FAFSA, unfortunately. That's only for US citizens or permanent residents.
So what might some options be for international students then who are not eligible for federal financial aid?
International students should apply for scholarships, just like students that are US citizens. Be aware, though, that there are not as many scholarships for international students. The first place to start would be applying for scholarships offered by the university or universities that you're applying for. See what kinds of scholarships they offer. Some colleges are better about scholarships for international students, while others are not as good. So you want to contact the International Student Office of the colleges you're targeting, as well as the financial aid office, and simply ask and say, hey, I'm an international student. I'm going to be really needing some scholarships. What kind of scholarships are available through the university? So start there, and then, of course, also apply for scholarships offered by nonprofit organizations as well as businesses like what we have on our platform.
Okay, sounds good. And yeah, for everyone else who is in this webinar, if you have any questions, just like Stephen, feel free to leave them in the Q&A section. I guess I'll just go back to another question which a student has sent in ahead of time. They said they noticed many scholarships want to see traits like community service in their prospective applicants. What kind of activities can students do to prepare for applying for scholarships when they're an upperclassman?
So, you know what? The same kinds of things you would do to prepare for college is what you would do to prepare to apply for scholarships. So you can volunteer with organizations in your community. You can participate in extracurricular clubs and after-school activities through your school. You can volunteer for things related to your place of worship. You can do a cancer walk. I mean, there's so many different kinds of community service opportunities. One of the best places to get that information would be to simply talk to your school counselor and say, hey, I'd like to do some community service. I want to really beef up my background so that I look good on scholarship applications and college applications. And you can bet your school counselor will have a lot of suggestions for you.
Okay, thank you so much. Once again, any of you, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. I guess I'll give you a minute to do that before following up with any other questions.
All right.
If there's no other questions right now, then I guess I will just ask one more question that has been sent in from a student ahead of time. This student asks how much they should reuse their essays from the college application cycle. Should they be exactly the same, or should they be different enough that like application officers can tell that they are not just clearly reused ones?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It relates to what I talked about earlier in the presentation. It is a good idea to repurpose and leverage essays you've already written, but you do want to make sure that you've tailored your response to the essay question, right? So if you've got an essay you've written, for example, for a college application, and you also want to use it to apply for scholarship essays, one difference that I would say is you don't want to send the same kind of an essay to the university that you're applying to for their university scholarship applications, right? You want to make sure that any essays you submit for scholarships are at least somewhat different from your college application essays. But outside of that, any other organization that's offering scholarships outside of the university, you can definitely leverage your college application essays as long as you have made any changes needed to make sure that they properly respond to the new essay prompt.
That's a great point. It's all about leveraging the existing resources and essays you have to apply them to the most strategically to the scholarships that you need.
Absolutely.
It seems like
And
Stephen
to
has a note.
streamline your time too,
Mhm.
students
Absolutely.
give up so fast when they start applying for scholarships. They write one or two scholarship essays and they get exhausted and they turn away and they don't ever apply again. So one of the things that I do is I try to encourage students that they have these essays they've already written. Many times they've written a few college application essays, as well as some essays that could work for academic essays they've written for classes that they could repurpose for a scholarship essay. You use what you have. You wrote it yourself, so it's not like you're plagiarizing if it's your own work.
Mhm. It seems like we have another question in the Q&A section from Stephen. Stephen is saying that he is applying for the Empower loan and the interest rate is 14.99%. Can you give me some advice on if taking this loan is a good idea?
And is Stephen the international student?
Yes, Stephen
Okay.
is the international student from Africa who asked our first question.
Yeah. So, one of the challenges for international students, there is a huge desire for many students to come to the United States for school. And there is always a hope that that their education will be often subsidized through scholarships offered by universities or from private organizations. And unfortunately, for most international students, that's just not going to be possible. Most international students will get some level of scholarships, but they'll need to contribute a lot to their own education. It's unfortunate, but it's the reality. And so what that means is that oftentimes international students are dealing with this idea of having to take out loans to pay for college, and these loans do have a higher interest rate than what students in the US are able to get through the FAFSA. As to whether or not you should take out this loan, I can't really advise you specifically to take it out or not to take it out. But what I can say is be sure that it's really worth coming to the United States if you're going to pay that much for your education, right? Perhaps there is a college you could go to that's not in the United States, that's in your home country, where you would be able to get an education for less money. Or there might be colleges in Europe where it would be less expensive. Unfortunately, the United States is one of the more expensive locations to get a college education. So really look at what your options are and be sure it's the best one for you.
Another great piece of advice, Jennifer. If there are any questions remaining, please feel free to leave them in the chat, but we will be wrapping up the Q&A in maybe just a couple of minutes. So any final questions? And if not, then we will be wrapping up this meeting.
Sounds good. Will the people who registered be able to access this webinar like later on?
Yes, this webinar will be recorded and then sent out to all people who registered. So that is why a lot of these students who have sent in questions ahead of time might see their question answered. And so we suggest that all students who register for this webinar, even if they're unable to attend live, at least
Watch
rewatch
the
the
replay.
recording. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll definitely send the recording link and the list of participants later to you. And yeah, thank you, Jennifer, for sharing all these awesome information to our students. It's really, really beneficial. We all learned a lot. Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you, audience, who's here attending today's webinar. I hope you find it very helpful, and look forward for the future Answer.AI student success webinar. We definitely prepared a lot of information, helpful information for our students. Thank you, everyone. We'll end our webinar here today. Have a good evening. Bye.